Hey Pod Squad, it's October 26th. Here's our weekly update, which this one's going to be a little bit different than usual. I'm going to be explaining a few extra things that you probably already know because I'm going to make this video available to the public who are just curious to see what happens inside DevPods in case they want to join us in DevPods. Of course, those of you all already here know some of the drill. That said, the main thing I, of course, want to start always pointing out is to check out the weekly video updates channel. That's where the progress gets posted by the leads every single week, showing what's happening in their teams. For the sake of people who are kind of peeking in here from the outside, I'm going to be showing a clip of the most recent update, just a short second highlight of each game. And these are the updates for Naus, Everchange, Orbs and Dash, Talon, Planets Mobile, and our most recent pitch, Crazy Arena Chaos. Of course, those are made in Unreal, Unity, and Godot, as well as in the current stage, we have a couple of JS or TypeScript projects carrying over from our old system. There's at least one or two people who are in discussions with me about upcoming pitches. That said, we have plenty of room for more. Of course, if we have more than we could fit into one group, we'll just spill over to an additional DevPod community. Of course, speaking of community, we have another Hangout coming up. In case you didn't see the announcement post in the channel, we have a different channel for those announcements. In case you want to mute those, in case you're not interested in those. Of course, we got to post these timing surveys. When the time gets picked, as the time approaches, we'll probably post an hour or so of reminder. If that's too many announcements because you don't want to attend these, that's all right. But Tim has posted those times. We've got one coming up later this week and then a couple weeks ahead. Trying spacing out different times. I want to thank everyone who weighed in on the timing survey. We were able to pick these two times to make sure everyone who wanted to attend one of these Hangout times can. As another small update over in our resource vault, which of course is where we have all these different outside resources of links and things that members have found helpful over the time, where it's not just that they heard something existed out there, they used it and it helped them, so we squirrel it away into a place where future members can find it. First, I want to point out two that were added to the Unreal 5 section. One is a materials course that Justin Montgomery has found really helpful for when he was doing the post-processing stuff on King Arthur leading up to its release. That's linked there. We also have a new resource that's written by Christian Gabinelli about removing LFS from GitHub. He initially had LFS turned on. It was costing a tiny amount of money to maintain that repo. We point out that typically we can avoid that for our scale of projects, even at the biggest games we've released and the 220 games we've released over the past 10 years, how it can be removed. And like the note says in there, it's not actually an Unreal specific thing. That said, I know those repos will tend to have larger files, more bigger pieces than our Unity and Godot commits. And so I have seen that happen more often where an Unreal project started by LFS by accident. Christian helped figure out, with Justin and some other people's help in the channel, ways to untangle it, documented that for other members going forward. If you ever figure out something here that applies to your project, helps you through it, and you want to document that for others, that is a great place to store that information in our resource vault. Another few additions are in the career-related column. And I know everyone in our community is here for career. Some folks are just here as a hobby because it's a fun, engaging, enriching thing to be doing, to be making games. But for those who are, it's a really helpful area where we've identified now, this is from when I was guest speaking recently. I was reconnecting with alumni of my previous two college clubs I started that kind of follow our same format we use still to this day in DevPods. But Game Job CO, Hitmarker, and Work with Indies are three websites that were recommended as far as where they found their first internships or they found their first paying gigs. Now, I want to suggest, too, that even if it's something you feel like is maybe far off in your future, you don't feel like you're qualified for that yet, a great way to use those resources is really as laying out a map for what your destination is. And we learned this tip from Rob Coble. Years ago, he used to work with our people as sort of a career consultant, and that came from his background at Full Sail, where for many years he helped place people in the game industry. And he's got this advice that I call it the Coble kind of perspective now. But it's basically, when you're looking at career openings, often what happens is we kind of treat it like a dating app. And we're like, well, it's not for me. It's not for me. I don't meet those qualifications. We kind of, swipe it away. Instead, look at that as a checklist. They're telling you, if you had project experience doing some of these things, we could have a conversation about it. And the thing of it is, right, that particular opening is going to come and go. But there's a consistent shape of what's churning through. And the same sort of thing might pop up 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. What can you do in our projects here in DevPods or in other outside things in game jams and online certifications, etc., to cross off more of that list? The other thing that I phrase it about more of that list is we tend to find the sweet spot in many cases is about 85% of the things that they list. If you can meet those at least, you can often still have a reasonable conversation that's competitive with other people applying. In many cases, for the rate they're willing to pay, for the amount of things that are on the job requirements, there's an expectation some of them might be learned on the job. You want to cross out more of that list than other folks, in addition to seeming like a personable person with team experience that they would like to work with. That said, again, I know not everyone's here for career reasons, but if you are, check out those career-related websites for some targets, so to make sure the kind of progress and projects you're doing are going to add up and move you in a meaningful direction. You don't want to be one of those kind of people who just kind of does some stuff and then hopes it lines up and then figures out that they're kind of 20% qualified for a bunch of different things, not any given one, a shape of which is the current openings in the industry. And the last thing I want to mention about that resources vault is a resource we're going to be adding in the near future. Tim and I are working on some checklists, which, as simple as that sounds, are going to really simplify for you our best practices we've returned from so many years doing this with people about prototyping process, about what goes into preparing to pitch and lead, including just some simple onboarding. So we know that we have our several hours of onboarding material for how to get connected to our Discord first, then how to get involved in a project, how to become a project lead. But I know there's a lot of ways you can get lost in the details. Want to get simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, easy numbered list, easy checklist, materials like that. Keep an eye out for those coming up in the week ahead. And then lastly, with Planet's mobile playtesting time coming up and some other games entering playtesting phases here as we reach near the end of this year. As a reminder, even though projects are on a staggered schedule and a few people are discussing pitches already, if you have a project you'd like to pitch, it is much less involved than you might think. You can schedule a call and meet through the channel about pitching new projects. That's also got other links to our resources related to what goes into the prototype shape, what goes into the scheduling, the weekly plan, what goes into the pitch in terms of a template that we use for all of our pitch slides. Find all that there. And even though in the long term, forever, I can't necessarily meet with every single person who wants to lead a project at our current scale, we totally can fit that in. We'd love to. Hopefully, it'll be a valuable thing for you to kind of help talk and think through your process. It does not have to be like you sign up and you're ready to be greenlit. You absolutely can schedule one of those calls to just chat about what you're thinking, how it's going, how it's shaping up. And we'll see if we can help steer you incrementally over. Maybe it takes more than one call. It's normal and that's fine, to getting to where you're going to be happy with the project you're going to build with other people in our community bouncing around freely between projects 1 week at a time up until the release date. That's it for this week, folks. Thank you all for tuning in. Of course, especially outside folks kind of joining us as guests, peering in on what's happening in DevPods. I hope you decide to join us. If you're not already a member, join us at devpods.gg. For everybody else, keep making games. I'll catch you next weekend and hopefully Thursday at our next hangout.